On the highest point overlooking Gull Lake in southwestern Michigan, there's a place that looks like it belongs in the English countryside. A Tudor-style estate. Massive, old world, the kind of property that whispers old money even if you don't know who owned it. And the man who built it, one of the wealthiest Americans of his time, called it something almost ridiculous. He called it the cottage. But what makes this house really haunting isn't the architecture. It's the fact that the man who built it, W.K. Kellogg, spent the first half of his life basically living as a servant, working insane hours, for tiny pay, taking orders like a subordinate, from his own brother. And by the time he built this estate in the mid-1920s, that brother, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, was suing him for the right to use their shared family name. Two brothers. One invention that changed American breakfast forever, and a feud so deep that when a final letter of reconciliation arrived, W.K. didn't open it, not until it was too late. This is the story of cornflakes, family betrayal, and the cost of winning. In 1925 to 1926, W.K. Kellogg built his summer estate overlooking Gull Lake, what we now know as the W.K. Kellogg Manor House. He picked the highest point above the water, and he didn't think small. The house is often described as a large English Tudor-style manor, something he personally referred to as the cottage. The estate included gardens and outbuildings, and it later became connected to Michigan State University's work at the Kellogg Biological Station. But here's the emotional hook. This wasn't just a rich guy building a flex. This was a man who spent decades watching other people enjoy the fruits of his labor, finally building something that was his. And to understand why this mattered so much to him, you have to go back to Battle Creek. Battle Creek, Michigan, wasn't just some random town. It became famous for something bigger: health reform, religious conviction, and a growing obsession with clean living. And in the middle of that world were two brothers, John Harvey Kellogg, the older brother, brilliant, intense, driven, and eventually the face of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. Then there's Will Keith Kellogg, W.K., the younger brother, overlooked for years, not treated like the star. John Harvey rises into status, medicine, influence. W.K. becomes the worker, the support, the assistant, the person making it all function behind the scenes. And that dynamic, older brother as the genius, younger brother as the machine, becomes the pattern that shapes everything. The Battle Creek Sanitarium was basically a wellness empire before wellness was even a modern word. It grew into a massive complex with buildings, staff, and high-profile visitors. But then the turning point hits. In February 1902, a devastating fire destroyed major parts of the sanitarium's main building, and it was later rebuilt and expanded. John Harvey's grip on this institution was intense. His ideas about health were extreme at times, and included a moral obsession with controlling people's behavior, especially around pleasure and desire. We'll keep it respectful here, but yes, his writings include harsh recommendations that historians have heavily criticized. And in the middle of all of it, W.K. is working, constantly, keeping the books, running logistics, handling the grind. While John Harvey is the public face. Now let's talk about the invention that broke the family. The sanitarium's whole philosophy pushed bland, simple foods, things that were easy to digest and calming. And out of that world comes a product that eventually becomes a global staple: cereal. W.K. sees something his brother doesn't. John Harvey sees food as medicine. W.K. sees food as business. W.K. understands normal people don't wake up wanting a lecture. They want something fast, crunchy, consistent, and honestly, something that tastes good. And that difference, medicine versus market, is where the relationship starts to fracture for good. By 1906, W.K. is done being invisible. He creates his own company and begins building a brand that will outgrow Battle Creek, outgrow the sanitarium, and outgrow his brother. And here's the move that made it real. WK embraced modern advertising and mainstream appeal, pushing cereal into ordinary homes as a daily habit, not a niche health product. And the biggest symbol of that? His signature on the box. Not just a logo, a personal stamp that says, "This is mine." That signature becomes identity, and the moment WK's name becomes valuable, the war begins. Two brothers, same last name, both selling products. So the question becomes painfully simple. Who owns a family name? This conflict escalated into serious legal battles, including a Michigan Supreme Court case involving the Kellogg name and unfair competition claims. And regardless of who you side with emotionally, the outcome did something irreversible. It turned a family relationship into a permanent business feud. They didn't just disagree. They separated. They hardened. And they stayed that way for decades. Here's the part brand versus soul lives for. WK wins in business. He becomes one of the most influential food entrepreneurs in America. And later, he creates a philanthropic legacy through the WK Kellogg Foundation, founded in 1930, which became one of the major American foundations. But while the public sees success, the private story is heavier, because the same personality traits that can build an empire, discipline, control, obsession, high standards, can also break relationships. And in this family, they did. In the final stage of the story, a letter is written. A last attempt at reconciliation. A final, maybe we don't have to die like this. But the tragedy is, reconciliation has a window. And once pride calcifies for decades, sometimes the apology arrives after the heart has already closed. WK doesn't open the letter until it's too late. And that's the final message of this story. You can win the brand. You can win the name. You can win the market, but still lose something you can't buy back. If you like deep dives into old money history, where success has a shadow, hit subscribe. And tell me in the comments, do you think WK was right to never forgive, or did the feud cost them both more than it was worth? This is Brand versus Soul, and we'll see you in the next one.